They're a problem everywhere in the U.S.
Gangs are a virus.
They are largely involved in driving crime, in violent crime, particularly gun violence.
Violent gang members, they bring drugs into our communities. These criminals are poisoning the minds of our children.
I think it's helpful to identify what a gang is.
A definition of a gang is 3 or more people with the same common beliefs.
Working in concert, committing crimes.
We know what a gang is. We know gangs are in North Carolina.
How big of a problem are gangs in North Carolina?
I think it's a big problem. We as leaders, we've got to acknowledge that there's a problem.
Does Raleigh have a gang problem?
Oh yes, most definitely, like any other city.
Raleigh's not immune. Raleigh's not exempt from that.
Charlotte, Raleigh, Rocky Mount, Wilmington, Fayetteville, Greensboro, Winston-Salem.
But there's so much the general public doesn't know about gangs, including what gangs are here.
The South has seen an explosion over the last 20 years in Bloods, Crips, Sureños, Norteños, Latin Kings, Gangster Disciples, and the list goes on and on.
What crimes are these gangs committing?
Some may sell drugs, do frauds, do robberies. It's criminal enterprise.
What we're doing is search warrants in Rocky Mount. WRAL's here, Edgecombe County Sheriff's Office is here, Nash County Sheriff's Office.
Be the 4th on the left.
We just got done with the briefing. I'm gonna ride along with Sheriff Stone as they go and serve these search warrants.
We're after the bad actors, the distributors, the gang members that are carrying guns, and the ones that's causing chaos in these communities.
What kind of drugs are in there?
Heroin, fentanyl, and guns.
The WRAL Documentary Unit learned gangs are recruiting younger and younger members.
Tell me when you first were introduced to gangs.
Probably about 10.
I mean, when you were younger, were you in a gang?
Age 13.
13, 14, 15 years old.
But now, these kids there's an issue, they're not fighting, they're shooting.
We heard from person after person who told us a well-intentioned law change
This juvenile justice reform a few years ago go too far.
is making it easier for gang members to recruit kids.
When the state of North Carolina raised the age, we raised the crime.
The challenge is that the way that law has reverberated in the streets.
Today, I'm over capacity in juvenile detention because these young people are being told a lie by these gang members that they won't get in trouble.
And the truth is very different.
It's only 2 things when it comes to ganging, and it ain't 3, it's 2. That's dead or in jail.
We want to grow a child, and we want to give them a chance. They are easy targets if we don't go to them. Easy targets for gangs.
Let's start with the backstory on really how we met Andrew.
We interviewed so many people for this documentary, all across the state. And each story you'll see really helps you understand the issue with gangs and young people and the impact on the community. But the story that really sticks out, because we just never expected to get it, was Andrew's.
We were in Nash County to get interviews after spending the entire previous day with deputies as they served search warrants.
Nash County Sheriff's Office, we have a search warrant. Anyone inside the residence? Anyone inside the residence, you need to come outside now.
One of the interviews we were getting was with Michael Cannon.
My name is Officer Cannon, Sergeant Cannon with the Nash County Detention Center here in Nashville.
He's in charge of classifying gang members in Nash County and then figuring out where they're housed in the jail. A lot of times gangs are separated in jail and prison because it stops fights, and we're told it's really to protect the jail employees.
He said there are 10 criteria that will validate someone as a gang member, and the person has to meet 3 out of the 10.
So if they don't come out and tell me, there's several indicators we can look for. The biggest ones are tattoos. The tattoos are a story. It tells it all. It's hidden in artwork, so you have to really study their tattoos. Dress code, wearing a certain type of colors. Are you hanging stuff off the certain side? Handwriting's a big one. You know, Are they capitalizing their C's but crossing out their B's, or vice versa, crossing out C's? Or they just won't write with C's at all? You know, that could be a time that you might be a Crip, or vice versa, you might be a Blood.
We learned a lot talking with him, and then the interview was over and we were chatting.
Yeah, I just got off night shift, so I'm gonna go.
I asked him, do you have anyone we might be able to interview? Someone who used to be involved in the gang life. You know, we were told so many times that once you're in a gang, you're never really out, but some people are just less involved than others. He said, hold on, I have someone in mind. He leaves the office. We thought he was gonna maybe text someone or call someone in the community who we might be able to interview. We're just sitting there waiting. Next thing we know, Sergeant Cannon is back. He's with a young man in an orange jumpsuit, in shackles. This man is in jail, he's in a gang, and he's willing to tell his story. We agreed not to show his face or use his real name. And when I asked him what he was in for, he said, murder.
Andrew grew up in North Carolina. He said he was around gangs forever, since he was 10. They were just so common, just a part of everyday life, but he didn't join one until later.
That's the crazy part. I grew up going to a Baptist church, play baseball. I was a good kid. Really, the gangs and everything never really influenced me the way I thought they would until later on. In my teens, that's when everything started taking a left. I was stealing cars, I was selling drugs. I just kind of got caught in it.
He ended up being sent to a juvenile detention center in Butner, North Carolina.
I was at Polk Youth Center. It's a youth prison. It's 17 to 21, and pretty much fight every day. People who were 20 doing life, it was wild. They got nothing to lose in there. That's why it's so violent. That's when people are forced into gangs.
And then you ended up joining one.
Yeah, I didn't want to be in the crossfire. I'd rather be with someone that promises good and bad, but there's no really good in it.
So when you got out of prison, did you stay in that gang?
I did. You can't really get out of it, especially when you tattoo it on yourself. My specific gang, we did community drives, like help the community. We got together and picked up trash. So we did good to give back for the bad that we did, but you can't sell drugs and ruin lives and pick up trash and expect to heal what you've done. It just doesn't work that way.
You said you're in for murder.
Yes.
Andrew told us someone was attacking a family member, and he ended up killing them. We asked if being in a gang desensitized him or was related in some way.
It's prison that does that to you. I've seen people get held down on their bed and stabbed. I've seen people go to the shower and get stabbed. I've seen people about to go home die. It really changes your perspective and the way you act when you have to fear for your life every day.
And now he's back in jail, in the place where he first joined a gang.
What's your biggest regret?
My biggest regret? Joining a gang. Wish I had never got involved in it.
If you would have had like a mentor, like somebody who really cared about you, showed an interest, do you think it would have helped you?
Definitely would have helped. I didn't have a father figure. He was in prison for murder for 14 years of my life. If I had someone who could have showed me a better way, I think things would have turned out a little different.
We spent a lot of time talking about mentoring when we were in Edgecombe County. That's where we interviewed Sheriff Clee Atkinson.
A lot of the gravitation to gang life, they want to feel love.
His big thing is trying to reach kids before they go down the wrong path, but really, even when they do, he doesn't give up on them. And the proof of that is when I asked him if he knew anyone involved in the gang life that I might be able to interview. Next thing I know, I'm talking to a gang member who agreed to do an interview later that day.
Thank you so much for just chatting.
We agreed to hide his identity. Atkinson has known and tried to help this man for years.
I helped him get his license. It's all about sitting down with them and saying, hey, man, listen, do you know, I want you to be, when the police stop you or law enforcement stop you, I want you to be able to stop and hand them your driver's license. I don't want you to run because you don't have a license and you're a gang member. And he's like, man, nobody's ever sat me down to teach me these things.
When Sheriff Atkinson called you and said, hey, there's this reporter who wants to talk to you, you automatically said yes.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I trust him. He never let me down about nothing.
Sean joined a gang as a teenager.
I'm not going to use it as a crutch, like not having my father around, because my dad did prison time my whole juvenile life growing up. And my relatives that I was around, half of them was drug addicts. So it wasn't going to be no, don't do this, don't do that.
He told us, the gang offered this brotherhood that he just didn't have.
And the love, like I said, I was getting from people that I didn't even know, not knowing that it was going to get somewhat out of hand, out of control.
What was the moment where you said, I am no longer doing this?
When I started losing too many close friends. I'm talking about doing double life sentences in prison, being dead. It messed with me in all type of ways. But I don't believe in the nonsense that they do out here. They're shooting this and doing all that. That's a past tense life for me.
Sean has a family, a legitimate job, and no record in North Carolina.
I'm living, I'm free. I'm not on no paperwork. I'm buying a house.
And you're trying to reach young people to say, you could do this too.
I want to so bad, man. That's my dream.
He wants to reach kids, like Sheriff Atkinson finally reached him.
And I was doing my share of messing the communities up. I'm trying to be a person that helped rebuild it.
He's ready to tell the story after a lot of years and admit, hey, man, we've done some damage. Now it's time for us to do better.
That's what he said. He said,
Wow.
He said, I've really damaged the community.
Woo! Wow. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
He said, I've really hurt the community. I want to do something else now.
Wow. But who's going to tell them? Who's going to teach them? Who's going to show them it's a better way?
Coming up, a needed law change.
North Carolina is a step closer to raising the age of adulthood in the justice system.
With an unintended consequence.
Basically, I hate saying it like it's a free-for-all.
Hey, it's here, it's real, and we don't hide it.
Come outside now.
We didn't just talk to people in rural counties for this. They were just the first to be like, absolutely, let's talk about gangs in North Carolina.
And if you have leaders in your community that is reluctant to tell you that you have this type of activity, that's scary to me.
Gangs are in several neighborhoods in the city, and the FBI is investigating them.
These two alleged gunmen being heavily involved in a gang.
Durham has a well-known and documented gang problem.
8 Trey gangster Crips, which is responsible for a significant portion of violent crime and drug distribution in the Durham area.
The Durham police would not do an interview on gangs, and they wouldn't say why. It's surprising because we did an entire WRAL documentary on their challenges in dealing with gun violence called Durham Under Fire, but again, they said no. This was not the case with Raleigh Police.
My name is Estella Patterson, and my title is Chief of Police for the Raleigh Police Department.
Her take, though, was different than many of the other people we interviewed.
Are gangs a problem in Raleigh?
That's a question that we often get. Are gangs a problem? I think you have to put things in perspective. You have gangs everywhere. We have gangs that are problematic, that are concerned to us, but just to say that it is a problem, I think that's a loaded question, especially if you don't give context to it.
We have talked to sheriffs. We've talked to retired detectives. We've talked to advocates. We've talked to people who were in gangs, and they all say emphatically it is a problem.
Raleigh has a very big gang problem.
Oh yes, most definitely.
They're a growing problem for sure.
But you're not saying that.
What I'm saying is when you base it on other cities, even peer cities our size, I don't believe that our gang problem or our gang issues are as great as those other cities.
We wanted to know the metric for how they were measuring this, so I asked Lieutenant Brian Bracey, who investigates gangs, about numbers specific to Raleigh.
How many gangs are there in Raleigh?
So we do, track our gang members as far as reporting and things like that, keeping up with the crimes that they commit, but I don't have the numbers for the exact number of gangs that we have.
But you have those numbers, right? Because If you're not tracking it, how can you say that the problem here isn't as bad as some of these other cities?
Well, I think when you look at our crime numbers, the amount of shootings that we have, the number of homicides, the size of Raleigh, being in the top 50 biggest cities in the nation, our crime numbers are way low.
So again, we looked at the numbers. We pulled the crime rates for 10 cities about the same size as ours, places with between 425 and 515,000 people. Raleigh's crime rate does fall towards the bottom, with less than 500 violent crimes per every 100,000 people. Oakland, California, while smaller in size, has a crime rate 3 times Raleigh's.
If there's something that's connected to a gang, certainly we're going to talk about that. We don't want to create widespread panic in our community by labeling everything as a gang problem or a gang issue.
Beginning next week, the state will raise the legal age to be charged as an adult from 16 to 18.
The one subject many of the people we interviewed were on the same page about: raise the age. The law stopped 16 and 17-year-olds from being charged as adults in North Carolina, except for violent crimes. North Carolina was the last state to make this change.
We know that when North Carolina raised the age, legislation passed in 2019, that was a wonderful thing, because we understand fully that juveniles, their brains aren't fully developed.
And that's why we passed the law, because we understand that these young people are different than adults.
The issue is not with the law itself, but how law enforcement officials say gangs are using it.
With raise the age, our juveniles are becoming more emboldened to commit crimes.
The challenge is that the way that law has reverberated in the streets is to make young people believe and to allow gang leaders to tell them that they won't be held accountable.
So they recruit the young to do it.
Basically, I hate saying it's like it's a free-for-all. And so what you see are juveniles just running and gunning. They're carrying guns, they're doing carjackings, they're doing shootings, very reckless because the frontal lobe isn't fully developed.
Some of these 16, 17, 18-year-olds will kill you as quick as anything else.
In 2019, juveniles committed 978 violent crimes. In 2022, the most recent data available, the number more than doubled to more than 2,300 violent crimes. Under raise the age, juveniles who commit violent crimes can still be sent to adult court. More than 400 kids were transferred in 2023.
We've got to do a better job as adults demythifying that, making sure that young people understand there truly is still accountability.
William Lassiter with the Division of Juvenile Justice doesn't want to see more kids tried as adults. He wants the adults held accountable.
If you were the adult that was pushing for that kid to do those types of crimes, that you would be the one that would be facing those serious charges instead of the kid.
Republican Senator Danny Britt, an attorney from Robeson County, has introduced legislation,
House Bill 834,
that would automatically send 16 and 17-year-olds who commit violent offenses to adult court instead of starting in juvenile court.
These juvenile crimes are moving faster through the justice system than what they would on a juvenile court docket.
That same bill would up the charge for adults who entice juveniles into committing a crime.
You will be punished just as though you committed the crime yourself.
Not everyone is convinced these changes are worth it, including Representative Marcia Morey, a former judge in Durham.
I mean, I left the courthouse and being a judge because I was so involved in doing the right thing and raising the age of juvenile jurisdiction. But now we're saying, let's change the raise the age law. Let's put 16, 17-year-olds automatically in the adult system.
And while she wants adults held accountable, she's not sold on adults facing the same crime as the kids they convinced to break the law.
So this legislation, I think we're going way too fast for the wrong reason.
While the bill advanced the Senate and the debate in Raleigh continues, in Edgecombe County.
This is mine. I get 2 trays today, darling. And mayonnaise.
What you gonna do about it? You know what they call the pod women? Murder block. No bonds. Period.
There's a program desperately trying to reach kids early.
Because your don't need to be in here. I don't need to be in here. I'm mad at myself, but you know what? I might feel like taking my anger out on you today.
Next. Let's end this in Edgecombe County, where 12 kids are getting a look at their possible future. It's this program called Will to Live.
You're not here because you've been good, okay?
Sheriff Atkinson and his staff do this once a month. He asked us to blur their faces, but he let us show most of the day.
We cuff them up, we take them inside, and we dress them out in inmate uniforms.
They go to a local funeral home.
Y'all done heard a million times the path that y'all going on, either it's jail or it's death. Looks like you guys already been in jail, so we're gonna pretend like we died.
Where the kids fill out their own death certificates.
I gotta ask them, what's your favorite color? Not for your favorite shirt, not for a pair of shoes, not for a hat, for your casket.
They see the embalming room.
These are real bodies here. The only difference between them and y'all is that they live their lives. They 80, 90 years old. We done buried 4 young people this year already.
We learned 15,000 kids went through the North Carolina juvenile justice system last year. 40% of those kids had a parent that was not willing to help them.
If we don't put forth the effort, who will?
The kids go to jail.
We let them talk to local gang leaders that's in our jail. They come up and try to talk to them. Look, this is not the way to go.
You know what they call the pod when I'm in? Murder block. No bonds. Period.
You need to listen up and pay attention, because y'all are here right now because you ain't acting right.
The inmates do not hold back.
I'm from Rocky Mount. You know, I was just like y'all, used to having my way. Couldn't tell me nothing. Spoiled. I'm kind of ashamed to look y'all in y'all faces, because I'm around some of my peers, my DARE teacher. I'm accused of narcotics, trafficking. But the route y'all going, you'll be back here. You don't want that.
They yell at the kids when they're disrespectful.
You heard the man stand up. You don't show respect to these officers in here, they ain't gonna do a thing for you, son. I promise you that. You gonna be one that's come back in here. I see you one of them hard-headed ones, huh? That anger problem you got, you think you the only one. Look at my hands. See my pinky right there? Look at this one. I can't even hold it straight. It's broken. All that's broken right there. You know why? Because a girl thought she was bad and hit me with a food tray, and I beat her till my hand was broke. You don't want this. This is not the life you want. I promise you. You don't want it. You don't want it. Baby, since you so bad, that hand broke, right? You so bad, do it. Do it. You ain't but a scary little girl. I seen your tears welling up right there, boo-boo. You can act hard all you want to, but get the back here in 2 more years, because you're 16, right? You ain't got 2 more years, and you'll come straight back here. Straight back here. Trust and believe. If I ain't here, there's gonna be a just like me.
It's intense. But for some of these kids, time is really running out.
Those kids that we were able to get involved with within the first year of their involvement with gangs, we got 70% of them out of the gangs.
And of the kids involved in gangs for 2 or 3 years, only 10 to 15% got out.
Based on their choices and their actions, this is actually where it can land.
The program's name, Will to Live, came out of a conversation that Sheriff Atkinson had a few years ago.
Local gang members out of the city of Rocky Mount, they said, we need a will to live. Because right now, we don't see it.
The gang member who came up with the name was Sean, the man Atkinson finally reached.
But I called them. I said, can I use the name? And they said, yes.
Now they're hoping for these kids, the will to live is found much sooner.
If you feel like you're a big guy and you want to be out here gang banging on these streets, you're gonna end up dead or in jail.
So you guys are just gonna write down all the problems that you have, anything that's holding you back. We're gonna write them down on that sticky note, and we're gonna ball them up, and we're gonna throw them in the casket, and we're gonna bury them. So you can go ahead and go first. Each one of you individually is gonna walk up. There's a mirror in the casket, and you're gonna stare at it. And you stare at it until the officers tell you can leave. Because you still got a chance, you still got an opportunity to change. Instead of burying yourself, let's bury them problems, let's fix some things. This is it. It's real.